So I'm Ethan. Nice to meet you all. I'm going to be talking about some of the things that I've learned from both Google as well as Uber in terms of innovative retail and shopping environments. So a little bit about me. I headed up the user experience group at Google, focusing on commerce. That includes shopping, payments, and then interestingly, travel. Really fun place to work. But we worked with a lot of big box retailers, a lot of brands to think about the overarching customer journey. And at Uber, I head up product design for the growth organization. We look at sort of supercharging Uber wherever we think we can get like 10x growth. I just actually got back from China and India 2 weeks ago, and it was amazing to see the different forms of transportation and the way that Uber is sort of solving problems across the world. So today, we've talked a lot about great ideas that have everything to do with combining identity with your social networks, with your sort of physical networks, with mobile, and with understanding your sort of your location in the world. It's all supported by really intelligent data and technology. And so we could sort of gather after this and spend a few minutes brainstorming, and I'm sure we'd come up with 50 really awesome ideas in the course of 30 minutes. We can all run activities where we can do that. That's really easy. It's really quick. What's harder is actually executing on those ideas and making some of the things that you've seen today a reality. And what's even harder than that is actually having an impact with those ideas. Are the ideas targeted in the right way so that you're actually moving the business in the right direction? It's fantastic to actually build something, but is it really going to change your business or your brand in a real material manner? So that's something that's important to think about. And the way that I sort of think about this is in terms of the commerce lifecycle. It starts with awareness, making sure that your customer is aware of your service, your brand, your product. It moves into engagement, then research and learning phase, conversion, then ultimately fulfilling, and then re-engagement over time. So what I've done here is I've sort of placed the trends that we've discussed today into this sort of simplified customer lifecycle. And one thing to think about is where your business or the businesses that you're working with, where they sort of fall short across this continuum. And you can target those areas and apply some of the solutions that we've seen today or some of the ideas behind the solutions to really help them in those areas. So the first one, awareness. How do you actually get your message out there? What kind of brand marketing are you doing? What kind of performance marketing are you doing to actually get people to understand that your thing exists in the world? Then move into engagement. Engagement is obviously where you are connecting the people to your brand, your product or service in a way that's more deeply meaningful, where they start to think about it as being part of their lives. And then we move into the research and learning phase. And in this omni-channel world, obviously everybody's got smartphones. People are, they're showrooming all the time. We've seen a lot of examples where we're making the in-store retail experience much more immersive. My belief is that inventory is going to be completely warehoused, and most in-store retail experiences will be just, more experiential spaces over time. But people really need to get information, whether they're at home, in the store, in real time. So how do you do that? The next is conversion. This is something that I spent 4 years at Google really focusing on. How do you actually move from one click to like 0 click? And Uber's doing 0 click, which I think is pretty cool, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But the key here is really removing all obstacles that you possibly can, so that the moment somebody decides to give you their money or their time or their energy, it's just done. They don't have to fumble around with their wallet or go through an additional few steps in the consideration process. It's just done. And then lastly, fulfillment. We haven't really talked about innovations in fulfillment here, although some of the folks who spoke did touch on it. But I think this is a really exciting space. Just this idea of being able to get that good or service when I want it, as quickly as I can possibly get it, I think is it's very important for us to consider along this retail continuum. Okay, so you've identified sort of the areas where you've got gaps. I think then the really important thing to look at is what are your core tenets that are guiding your business, that are guiding your brand, and guiding your thinking about your products. And these tenets, if you have them, oftentimes help you decide what not to do as much as they help you decide what to do. At Uber, we have 4 core tenets. It's nice to see the 4th, personal. People have been talking a lot about personal here, which is great to see that repeated. But the first is empowering. We want to make sure that everybody feels like they're in sort of control, and they've got a sense of ownership for their experience they're having with Uber. So the minute you step in that car, we want to make sure that you feel like you are in control. Convenience is huge. We want to make sure that we are really augmenting the fact that you tap a button and a car shows up immediately. Or you tap a button, you get food delivered immediately. That convenience factor, it's really about removing obstacles, making things work a lot faster. It's incredibly important. We want things to be magical. Magic can come in different forms. Kittens can be magical. But magic's really about doing something that was unexpected, that delights people in unexpected ways. There's something really essential about having an experience with a product, brand, and service that's pleasing, but that you just never knew would be the case. And the last is personal. We want to make sure that your experience with Uber in any sort of way, shape, or form is really tailored to your personality, to your likings. And we think about this not just when it comes to individuals, but we think about this on a citywide basis. In our ideal model, we would have a brand for Uber that really feels like San Francisco. And that brand for Uber in San Francisco will feel a lot different than the brand for Uber in Chengdu, China. And so we're moving along those directions, but we really want to make the experience of Uber feel as personal and localized as possible. OK, so it's important to follow your tenets. And what we're going to do is apply some of those tenets to some use cases, case studies that we've put together. So basically, I'm looking at these trends at Uber and how they sort of apply. So the first is perfect partnerships. So how many people have used Spotify in an Uber? Hands? OK, that's pretty cool. Sometimes it doesn't always work for me. The driver's got to set it up, which is kind of cumbersome. I don't like that. But this was a great partnership to establish. It solved problems across the board. It really filled a gap for Uber. We wanted to make sure that people had that ownership experience when they got in the car. And on the rider side, it really enhanced the experience. When you're able to get into a car and you've got your own music playing, you really feel ownership for the end-to-end driving experience. And then lastly was mutually beneficial for both Uber and Spotify. We got increased engagement on both sides, so it was a very mutual beneficial partnership. So that's the kind of partnership that we want to be in. Another very mutually beneficial partnership was Uber and Live Nation. It was an awesome experience. I've got 2 kids now, so I don't go to concerts that often, but I will when my daughter wants to start going to concerts, which I can't wait. I'm really excited to see Katy Perry live. But I'm not excited to drive there, right? I'm not excited to drive to Levi's Stadium. That doesn't seem like it's fun to me. And so what Uber and Live Nation have done is we've teamed up to give people rides to concerts and provide distinct drop-off and pickup places. So let's provide a really, really nice experience. And for Uber, what we wanted to look at there as well is how do we actually accentuate and distribute our experience. So we appear in Live Nation's app, just like you've probably seen us appear in Google Maps for mobile. We're trying to get our experience out there and put it in the place where it's supposed to be. So in terms of eliminating obstacles, which is something we've done, I think, a pretty good job of when it comes to payments, Uber started out as a company that they didn't focus on revolutionizing this payments experience. It was really about removing friction and creating a better transportation experience. And it just so happens that one of the worst parts of taking a cab is figuring out whether you should pay cash or with plastic. And sometimes the machine doesn't work, and the cabbie's grumpy, and they're putting a receipt in your face, and you got to sign it, and then you've got to figure out the tip, and there's pressure. That just sucks. And so we took that out of the equation, and it's a much better experience for riders. And on the driver's side, what it allows them to do is provide a premier level of service. So now the driver is able to pay attention to the rider and say, have a good day when they get out of the car, or they can open the car door for them. So by removing obstacles, you open these really awesome opportunities to innovate, especially at that point of purchase. Imagine in a retail environment. Sure, many of you have gone to the Apple Store and walked out with something, which you can do. It's kind of weird, but it's kind of cool. But when you go to the Apple Store, people are able to give you a higher level of service. I really look forward to this in more luxury retail environments. I hope that we start to see more of this, like Barney's. So you can walk in there and you actually get better treatment. It's more like you're having a personal shopping assistant there with you versus somebody who's just there to ring you up at the register. Huge opportunity in this space. Uber Eats is another good case in point. It's immediate gratification, so we're moving obstacle there. If we were to really 10x this, we'd actually press a button and food is in your stomach, just like that. It'd be kind of weird, but if it was really delicious, maybe you'd taste it too, but you're full. But this is we have people driving around during lunchtime with food in the vehicles, and so when you actually ask Uber to get you some food, it's there very, very quickly. The food is also really high quality. That matches with our brand. We want to up-level our brand as well as the brand to the people that we're partnering with. And it's also foundational. At Uber, we talk about going beyond transporting people. We talk about sort of this movement from bytes to bits, or bits to bytes, both ways. And part of that is about sort of not just moving people, but moving things, physical objects. So like with Uber Rush, we're moving packages within cities. With Uber Eats, we're starting to move food. And what we can do with that is we can learn and fail fast. You know, what your experience for Uber Eats today here in San Francisco is likely to be 180 degrees different next year, because we're going to learn what's working, where it's failing, and that's foundational to our strategy going forward. So when you're thinking about some of these trends or working with companies who are innovating in this space, don't just think about today. Think about how you can structure something that helps them in the future, and where you can learn, you can fail fast. I really love the example of Target and that showroom, because they're changing it so rapidly. They're learning what works. They're mapping the floor and the way people are moving across the location and altering the form and the structure. I think that's really, really smart. So cultivate community. We do a lot of this. Some things that I think are sort of behind the curtains at Uber is that we've got awesome city teams all across the world, regional teams who are working on these local marketing campaigns. We also have more global marketing campaigns. Uber and Goodwill, that was a really great one. We took a community of people who wanted to give back to their community via Goodwill. And basically, we leveraged the fact that people are lazy. And we sent Ubers to their homes on Saturdays and just had them put their clothes they wanted to donate into the Uber, and it took it away. And this was really awesome. It increased engagement for Goodwill. In the one day that they did this, we gathered 450,000 pounds of clothing in one day. It was pretty epic. And there's a lot of people who signed up and got engaged that way. And that both strengthened Uber as well as Goodwill's brand. Another one along these lines is Uber plus Mothers Against Drunk Driving. It's a very natural relationship there. Uber's helping a lot of people get home when they're inebriated. And actually saving lives that way. And so, that's all about what Mad's doing as well. So we found a perfect fit there with this shared mission. We also were able to galvanize a community by working closely with Mad. We've been doing a number of these drives where people pledge to Mad, and we send out emails through the Uber network to get them to pledge. When we conducted this, I think we found that in 1 or 5 day period where we had these pledges running, Mad gathered more pledges than in the previous 6 months. So again, we're really augmenting the level of participation within that community. And this has a sustaining impact. We can run this sort of thing on a number of different times of year if we want to. So like 4th of July, Halloween, which is coming up. A lot of people like to go out and party. And then also New Year's. OK, now finally, we deliver delight. And the kittens are here. You can go. I'm just kidding. That's bad. But actually, today is the kittens. Anyway, I looked in the app and I didn't see the little kitten button. I was seriously going to order kittens to come to see us. So kittens are great. They really pull on your heartstrings. It's a furry animal. There's nothing to not like about little cute furry animals. But what we do is we partner with local shelters to give these kittens a chance to have homes. And what's nice about this one in terms of delight is that it's totally surprising and unexpected. So you might know that a kitten's coming, but you never know what that kitten's going to do, right? And you don't know what people around you in your office are going to do when there's a kitten in the office. So it's like this viral network of delight happening when you have a kitten in the house. And then lastly, it's kittens. We do puppies too. Like anything, again, cute, furry, it's good for your brand. OK, lastly, Uber ice cream, also one of those universally appealing things. Almost everybody loves ice cream. I guess if you're lactose intolerant, you might not love it, but you wish you could eat it. But this really piques nostalgia. People harken back to the days when they just wanted to indulge on ice cream as kids. And so what we do here is we actually acquire mass quantities of ice cream and all the swag needed to distribute it. You can request to have ice cream delivered to you or your office. This actually has a huge media impact for us. Last time we did this, we started trending across Twitter, Periscope, Instagram, and Facebook at once. So it was a really low-cost way to get a huge media impact. And what's neat about this one in terms of delight is that it scales across the world. We ran this in 43 countries and 144 cities. And really, we could go anywhere we wanted to with this concept because ice cream is a universal good. Everybody loves ice cream. So it was a nice way to sort of distribute delight across the globe. OK, so these are some examples that Uber has put together that map quite nicely to the trends that we've talked about today. So I just want to leave you all with a note that I'm really excited about everything that you will all do with the knowledge you've gained today. I think the future is very bright for innovation in the retail environment. I think we need it. I can't wait to actually visit some of the locations that I've heard about today, and I'm likely to open my pocketbook when I get there. So thanks a lot.